Thanks for joining us on the program today. I'm Amarachi Ubani. Here's what's coming up within the half hour. U.S. government expands travel ban to include Nigeria with a partial visa ban. Venezuela denounces President Trump's order for a total and complete blockade of all sanctioned oil tankers entering and leaving the country. Plus, the UK rejoins the Erasmus student exchange program. Let's begin the world today. The Trump administration has announced the extension of its travel ban to include 5 additional countries from entering into the United States. Full entry restrictions are to be imposed on people from Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, South Sudan and Syria, as well as the Palestinian Authority passport holders. Laos and Sierra Leone, which were previously subject to partial restrictions, have been moved to the full ban list, while Nigeria, Tanzania and Zimbabwe, as well as 12 other countries, have been placed on partial restrictions. The bans come into effect on January 1st, and according to the White House, the restrictions are intended to protect the security of the United States. The U.S. president says the expanded travel ban is necessary because of what his administration describes as failures in screening and vetting systems overseas. Another reason for the ban on many of these countries is the overstay of visas. The White House states that Nigeria had a B1, B2 visa overstay rate at 5.56% and an F, M and J visa overstay rate of 11.90%. Now, these visa categories from next year will be suspended for new applications under the partial travel restriction. B1, B2, tourist and business visas. There's F, academic student visas, and M, vocational student visas, and J, exchange visitor visas. Immigrant visas, that's permanent residents, also generally are restricted without special waiver. It will be the 3rd time Trump has imposed a visa ban. During his first term, he introduced a similar order in 2017, which sparked protests and legal challenges at home and abroad. The policy was later upheld by the U.S. Supreme Court. The White House said the restrictions would remain in place until affected countries show credible improvements in identity management, information sharing, and cooperation with U.S. immigration authorities. Our correspondent in Washington, Maria Bird, joins us now with more on this. Maria, our concern, of course, is Nigeria. There are thousands of U.S. visa applications already being processed. We already have a restriction on the validity of the visas to 3 months. And now this partial ban. What are you hearing from the administration regarding what happens to those applications in process?
Well, those applications in process right now will likely be on hold. There's very limited information around what the actual process will be. They are actually still working out all the details. The president obviously put this out, and I'm not sure if all of the back-end components to it have yet been answered. So we're expecting to see some sort of an FAQ or later today, probably in about 3 to 4 hours from now. We're expecting the press secretary to come out with some sort of additional information around what all of this means. We're right here at the holidays, so obviously this is a major concern for Nigerians here in the United States, and also for those that have family they're expecting to come visit.
Will you clear this up for us, Maria? This does not affect those who already have valid U.S. visas, right?
It likely will not. Now, some of what they're still trying to understand is those who are here on tourism visas, those who are here on business visas, and obviously the education visas as well. And so the question is around how these restrictions could impact that group of individuals. And so those are still some things that you see many organizations, advocacy organizations, requesting of the administration to provide further clarification. As many Nigerians here are stating that even if they have plans to go home for the holiday, they've not already left, they could be considering canceling their plans due to the lack of clarity around what this will specifically mean and how this could have an impact come January.
As for those Nigerians, the diasporans who already have traveled, many of them are in the country ready for the holidays. They will, of course, be very concerned about how this restriction affects them. So how does it affect them going back?
Well, depending on the type of visa they have, obviously we know there are many Nigerians who actually have dual citizenship, and so those individuals would clearly be able to easily come back into the country. But it's really going to be around those who are on very specific visas. That tourism visa is one that is giving people of greatest concern, and then the business visa as well. But there will be probably further information around exactly the details around that. We know that this, obviously, there's some speculation that this is also tied to Nigeria's designation as a country of particular concern by the United States, and all the counterterrorism and the involvement of the Western region for various areas of terrorism, and looking at what President Trump has said in the weeks past. And so that is, I think, where many advocacy organizations are focusing in on. Is this something that is in response to that? What does this mean? And really trying to help the government fully understand the scope of what this partial travel ban will do to the Nigerian community, who had contributed so much to the U.S. As I was talking to someone earlier, over 50% of Black physicians in the United States are actually of Nigerian descent.
That is really powerful, Maria. Thanks for slipping that in. Lots of questions, lots of clarifications to be made, and the State Department apparently has no answers for us, because I did make some inquiries and got no responses. Thanks again, Maria. Well, South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa is warning against misinformation, speaking of countries deliberately painting a false picture of the country as a deeply divided society. He made the comments during a keynote address marking Day of Reconciliation at the Nkome Museum in Nkutu. President Ramaphosa cautioned that distorted narratives risk undermining social cohesion and democratic progress. He added that such narratives ignore evidence that many South Africans believe race relations have improved since the end of apartheid, stressing that the unity must be protected as the country continues its nation-building process.
Those people who are spreading lies about our country do not want to talk about the friendships, the neighborliness, and the kindness that is shown by Black and white people in our country towards each other. They don't want to play all the social media clips we are seeing of young Afrikaners in veldskoens dancing to amapiano, and white teenagers speaking fluent isiZulu with their friends. They do not want to relate how all of us as South Africans support our sporting men and women across the various sporting codes. Many Black South Africans have now embraced a sport called rugby, which in the past would have been seen negatively by many. Today they are the ardent supporters of the Springboks, and many South Africans, white South Africans, support Abafana Bafana, and that shows that indeed we are embracing the whole process of reconciliation. We must not let them succeed in their efforts. They must fail as they try to divide us as South Africans. If we continue and together build our nation as South Africans, there will be no one who will be able to plant the seed of discrimination and exclusiveness amongst us.
South African President Cyril Ramaphosa. The Venezuelan government has termed U.S. President Donald Trump's recent announcement of a total and complete blockade of all sanctioned oil tankers into Venezuela as warmongering threats. The escalation comes as U.S. forces seized an oil tanker last week off the Venezuelan coast, which was followed by an unusual buildup of military forces in the region. In a post on Truth Social on Tuesday night, Trump alleged that Venezuela was utilizing funds from selling oil to traffic drugs and other crimes and pledged to continue the military buildup in the region till Caracas agrees to give the U.S. oil, land, and assets. Son of slain Hollywood director Nick Reiner has been charged with murder over the deaths of his parents, Rob Reiner, and his wife, Michelle. District Attorney Nathan Hodgman says Nick faces 2 counts of first-degree murder with a special circumstance alleging multiple murders. He could be sentenced to life without the possibility of parole or the death penalty if found guilty. He will be brought to court to formally face charges and enter a plea after he is medically cleared by prison officials. U.S. media report that this could happen today. The couple were found dead on Sunday in their home in Brentwood, Los Angeles, with multiple stab wounds. Moving to Europe now. In Germany this week, 5 men were arrested who are alleged to have planned an attack on a Christmas market near Munich. Another person was arrested in the city of Magdeburg this week, suspected of planning a similar attack. Now, in both cases, the suspects are said to be radical Islamists. For more on this, we talk to the DW correspondent, Hans Brandt. Hans, great to see you as always. What more do we know about who have been taken into custody?
Well, the men that were arrested in southern Germany and Bavaria are an Egyptian, a Syrian, and 3 Moroccans. One of them is said to be an Islamist preacher, somebody who was very active in one of the mosques in the area, and he is said to have encouraged the other men to commit an attack on a Christmas market in the area, probably with a vehicle. The other person that was arrested in the city of Magdeburg in central Germany is a 21-year-old from Central Asia, also someone who appears to have been or is said to be a radical Islamist who planned also an attack on a major gathering with a vehicle, probably on the Christmas market. Now, in Magdeburg, this is an especially sensitive topic because a year ago, there was a major attack on the Christmas market there with a vehicle, and many people were killed and dozens injured. So the people in Magdeburg were really upset about this recent arrest in their city.
So, Hans, there are hundreds of Christmas markets in Germany. What is the state of protection?
They're very important at this time of year, the celebratory time of year. There are hundreds of such markets across Germany. Some of them are, one could say, world famous. The one in Nuremberg, for instance, which is very famous for its for the Christmas cookies that are made there. They are also very much present in small towns. And since a major attack on a Christmas market here in Berlin in 2016, security has been ratcheted up significantly at such markets, especially to prevent vehicles from driving into such markets. That's how most of these attacks have been executed in the past. That's increased the costs for having such markets so significantly that some of the smaller markets have in fact given up and are no longer being offered to the public. But the blockades for vehicles entering such markets can be seen basically at markets all across Germany. Nevertheless, as I've just said, there was a major attack in Magdeburg last year in which many people were killed. So the security measures are not 100% secure.
Well, you know, Hans, in Australia, there was a comparable attack on a group of people celebrating a Jewish festival at Bondi Beach in Sydney. In that case, firearms were used. Is such a scenario possible in Germany?
Certainly there is concern in Germany that attacks on Christmas markets still are possible despite all the security measures that have been taken. Attacks with firearms probably are less likely because Germany has very strict gun control laws. On the other hand, you could imagine that somebody who is a member of a radical organization might get possession of a gun through some sort of smuggling network. And also, there have been a number of attacks in recent years with knives on public gatherings. That's also something very difficult to control. So it's not completely inconceivable that attacks either with knives or firearms could be committed here in Germany. But in the end, people here are continuing to go to Christmas markets. They're continuing to say that they want to celebrate this time of year, that they want to enjoy their traditions, that they will not allow themselves to be intimidated by terrorists.
Well, Hans, thank you again for bringing this to us and for your reporting, of course, on the issue. Thanks again. We'll take a very short break now on The World Today. Still ahead, Turkmenistan's New Year tree lights up in Ashgabat. We'll tell you all about it. Stay with us. Welcome back to The World Today. Staying in Europe, Dutch member of European Parliament Bas Eickhout has criticized European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen over her policies, describing them as gifts to Russia and China. He was making the accusation during a plenary session in Strasbourg today, where he also accused Ms. von der Leyen of serving the Trumpist agenda, claiming that the EU is becoming more dependent on the US.
Europe is the biggest gift you can give Putin and Trump. And this council is a moment of truth after the US national security strategy, where people are saying that this is a wake-up call for Europe. A wake-up call? The wake-up call was on the 14th of February, when G.D. Vance was exactly playing out what is now in the national security strategy. So this is not a wake-up call, though not the first time. We have been woken up. How many times do we need before Europe really wakes up? The US strategy is clear. It's the same like Putin's. It wants to divide Europe. It wants to weaken Europe. It is against our liberal democracies. We need to stand up and need to fight for a European sovereignty. And that means the Council needs to deliver. Madam President, you said we need our own strategy. Well, since the February 14th, we only made ourselves more dependent of the United States.
In other news, the UK has announced it will be rejoining the Erasmus study scheme from 2027, 6 years after announcing it would end its participation as part of a deal to leave the European Union. Britons will be able to spend a year studying at European universities as part of their UK degree courses without paying extra fees, and vice versa for European students. Under the new deal, the UK will pay £570 million to join an expanded Erasmus Plus scheme in 2027, which the government said represented a 30% discount. Minister Nick Thomas-Symonds said the agreement proved the government's new partnership with the EU is working. But Conservative Shadow Foreign Secretary Priti Patel said the deal is a betrayal of Brexit. In a post on social media, she claimed the move would throw away billions of pounds of hard-pressed taxpayers' money. And we're here, Turkmenistan's main New Year's tree, which has been lit up in the square in front of the Alam Cultural and Entertainment Center. We finally get some action in Ashgabat. It marks the beginning of the festive season. In an event earlier today, the national Father Frost and Snow Maiden Ayas Baba and Gapyak were seen switching on the lights on the 44-meter tall festive tree, as well as children dancing in circles in anticipation of the New Year's celebrations. Decorated with 3,000 toys and 40,000 light bulbs, Ashgabat's main New Year tree has been breaking height records among other countries for several years in a row. It took 8,500 fir trees brought from Russia to make it. New Year celebrations mark the main festive event in Turkmenistan, while Christmas itself is observed as a religious holiday in early January. Anything to put you in the festive season. Thanks for watching The World Today. I'm Amarachi Ubani. And for our viewers on the DSTV platform, in place of sports news is a documentary on reserved seats for women, just for our viewers on the DSTV platform. Normal programming continues on other platforms. Stay with us.